It's okay, it was just a leaf.
Go on then.
Ready? Are you ready?
I'm videoing.
Okay, so hello YouTube. Welcome to Sarah's story part 2 of the many campfire stories that we tell. And as you heard in the last story, she was walking through the forest very slowly, and these footprints, as she got closer, the rustling got louder and louder. But she decided not to go any further as it got too loud for her, and as she turned around, what she saw she would never forget. John, back at the camp, heard a very loud female scream. It was Sarah. They had all got up and looked around, wondering what the hell was going on. There was more and more rustling coming from the left, the right, the front and the back. They all got torches and shone them around and could see nothing. It was pitch black through the trees, you could see no glints of lights. It was just them. It was almost like all the other campers were gone. It was just them in the lake now, no one else. No one knew where the other people went. There had been recent news stories that people had gone missing at this camp. No one knew where they went. They started to hear packs of footprints. Footprints? Packs of feet walking, rustling through the leaves on the floor. Like that. Lots and lots of them. It would almost sound like it was a pack of bears, if you will. Four-legged creatures walking through the trees. But, as John caught out the side of his eye, so did Anne. They saw a very, very strange looking white figure that was walking on all fours. It had almost looked like a little naked man, but no one really knew what it was. And this little naked man quickly ran off as soon as they looked. And then they saw another one, and another, but they only just got glimpses of them. They couldn't see the full thing. But they seemed to have been walking on all fours. And I can tell my friend's getting very scared over there. Just looking around all over the place for a little four-legged white creature.
Yeah.
And Anne decided she was going to go look for her best friend Sarah. So she said, John can follow me. And they left their other friend abandoned. So John and Anne went off into the trees and told Frank to stay there and keep guard. Was that his name?
That was Joe.
Oh, yeah. Joe decided he was going to stay there and keep guard. And so John and Anne went off into the trees, following this footpath. They started to see spots of drips of blood. They followed this blood. They could just see it in the shine of their torch. As they got a little closer to the floor, they realised that it was blood. So they followed the blood trail, and then they started to see these really odd footprints that continued through the trees. They followed these footprints, and they found an ear. It was just laying there, and it had an earpiece of a skull. They realised that that was Sarah's favourite earring. Sarah's favourite earring was a skull, and that's exactly what was in this ear. And they realised that it was Sarah's ear just laying there, surrounded with blood. And they decided they wouldn't go any further, because they were scared. They tried to call the cops, but there was no signal. The phones died out of battery. No one knew how this happened. It was almost like there was a signal interruption. The phones went dead. All they could hear was a beep. Then the battery slowly faded and died. They were the only ones in the forest. And, well, they heard a little bit of a scream, and they realised it was Joe. They went back, they ran through the trees, decided not to go back to the camp, and left their caravan, their fire, everything there. And all they could hear was this shout of Joe screaming, very deadly, very, I'd say, frightened voice, just screaming for help. Help me! Help me! Oh my god, what the fuck? the old story introduction? Anyway, so, all they could hear was the scream of their friend Joe, and the only thing John could think right now was, what the hell was happening at the camp? They kept running, and all they could hear was packs of feet just beating behind them. They did not look back, as they were worried there would be something there. They ran and they ran. All of a sudden they slipped down a mound. As they were rolling down this mound, and they dropped into the water with a loud splash. They realised they had reached the edge of the lake. The lake stretched on for miles, and the only piece of land they had was behind them. They realised that they could just see the other side, very faintly through some fog. It was a very foggy night, and all they could see was a few trees in the clouds. This was the other side of the lake. They were worried they would swim across, but they were worried they'd get stranded. And they turned around, and what they saw was something they'd never ever forget. There was a pack of little white, strange creatures just sitting there staring at them and dribbling, with sharp teeth, very long. They had 2 eyes and very upright noses, almost like a skeleton nose, if you will. Very upright, with just very bit skin on their head, no hair. Pointed ears, almost what you call elf ears. The nails were very sharp. One of them had blood dripping from its teeth. Was this the one that killed Sarah and Joe? No one knew. The only thing they could do right now was try to swim away, and as they swam away, they heard about 5 splashes behind them. They turned around very vaguely, very, very vaguely, and they realised that they were the only ones in this surrounding water. And poor little John, swimming off and accidentally leaving Anne, got pulled under the water. And Anne stood there and watched him slowly die as blood spewed up from the water. And Anne tried to swim as fast as she could, and she went off into the fog. All you could hear was a scream, a very loud and violent scream. And that was the end of the holiday for these 4, who went missing and were never ever found again.